an end to the fighting, not just now, not just for a pause, but permanently. A ceasefire that lasts, conference, that is what must happen now. The fighting must stop now.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to My Left Eye. Despite cajoling his MPs to abstain on a parliamentary motion to back a ceasefire in Gaza, Labour leader Keir Starmer gave a speech in Scotland over the weekend in which he called for an end to the Israeli siege of Palestine. At the time of recording this video, over 30,000 people have been killed, mostly women and children, and 1.5 million people are displaced and under bombardment in Rafah in southern Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has twice rejected peace proposals made by Hamas, which included exchanging hostages and a 135-day truce. But why has Starmer apparently had a change of heart? Does he genuinely support an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, or is this his knee-jerk reaction to a loss of support in the polls? More importantly though, how will his MPs vote in Parliament this week on a new motion for an immediate ceasefire put forward by the Scottish National Party? Let's see the rest of the clip and then go through the finer points.
Our conference. Any ceasefire cannot be one-sided. It must stop all acts of violence on both sides. And it must lead to a genuine peace process. Because the offensive threatened on Rafah, a place where 1.5 million people are now cramped together in unimaginable conditions, with nowhere else for them to go, this cannot become a new theatre of war. That offensive cannot happen. And even in these most terrible of circumstances, the two-state solution must be back on the table. A safe and secure Israel, where the horror that Hamas inflicted on October the 7th, the largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust, could never happen again. And alongside that, a viable Palestinian state, a state which is not in the gift of any neighbour, but is an inalienable right of the Palestinian people, and is recognised by this party and the world.
Well, Keir Starmer seemed very appalled by the 1.5 million people suffering in southern Gaza there, but it was just months ago when he appeared on Nick Ferrari's show on LBC and made statements like this.
I'm very clear. Israel must have that, does have that right to defend herself, and Hamas bears responsibility.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right,
We should also remind ourselves that 141 Labour MPs abstained during the last vote, only 56 voted for the motion. We saw Labour frontbench shadow MPs quitting over the issue. We've seen over 60 local councillors also quit the Labour Party and now decided to stand as independents since the last vote on a ceasefire in November 2023. But why the apparent sudden change of heart from Keir Starmer? My Left Eye's had a closer look, and here's what I've noticed. First of all, the speech was made in Scotland during an election year. Perhaps Starmer realises that there's a lack of support in England and he needs Scottish seats to overturn the Tory majority at the next election. Lest we forget that at the last general election, Labour lost votes in droves after a certain somebody went on TV and without authority announced that Labour would be backing a second referendum on leaving the European Union.
And so I can tell you today, an incoming Labour government will legislate for a referendum immediately on taking power and hold that referendum within 6 months.
The Scottish National Party hold the vast majority of seats in Scotland, and without support from north of the border, perhaps Starmer realises that he will struggle. After a steep drop in polling following November's ceasefire vote, Labour has received a less than warm welcome on the doorstep, while canvassers have been looking for votes in the upcoming by-election in Rochdale.
No, we don't support Zionists, bye!
We won't listen. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Also, Labour's recent victories in local by-elections this week seem to have been down to Conservative voters staying at home rather than people showing out to support the Labour Party. In fact, in Kingswood, Labour received 7,000 votes fewer than they did at the 2017 general election. Things are looking so bad in the Rochdale by-election due to take place in 10 days' time that bookmakers have slashed the odds of George Galloway, who is standing for the Workers' Party of Britain, winning to just 2-1. More details about that by-election in some of our recent videos. Please do check out some of our other content. Shadow frontbencher and also Labour Friends of Israel member David Lammy appeared on Laura Kussenberg's BBC show over the weekend and appeared to dodge the question as to whether he would vote for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
Will Labour support that motion in the Commons this week?
Well, we all want to see an end to the fighting. It must stop. Over 28,000 people have lost their lives, women and children.
David Lammy, the motion's actually been published already, and we've got it here. The SNP motion says this House calls for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and Israel. It notes with shock and distress that the death toll has now risen beyond 28,000. That is the motion. It is crystal clear. Will Labour vote for it?
Well, look, I've seen that swirling around social media, but that's not a motion. That's just a form of words swirling around.
You may have also noticed during Starmer's speech that he said this:
a safe and secure Israel, where the horror that Hamas inflicted on October the 7th, the largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust, could never happen again.
This implies that the situation began on October 7th of 2023. Obviously, that's far from the case. Palestine has been under occupation for the last 75 years, and Hamas's attack on October the 7th was a reaction to devastation that's been going on for decades. Keir Starmer is an open Zionist. This is a form of fascism which calls for 2 million Palestinians to be wiped out, either by murder or displacement to be removed from the very lands upon which they live. His track record since becoming leader of the opposition has been one of making pledges and then soon after doing U-turns. Recently we've seen this on issues such as nationalisation and also a £28 billion Green Pledge which Labour abandoned just last week. Starmer got into office by pretending to be a socialist, but as soon as he was elected he threw Corbyn and his policies in the bin and took Labour back to a Thatcherite neoliberal mess. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing and cannot be trusted. It will be interesting to see how Labour MPs vote on this motion later on in the week. We'll be keeping a very close eye on that and doing a report video after the vote. But at the moment, it looks as though Labour and Keir Starmer are on the road to nowhere. Just wanted to say it's been great to get so many new subscribers recently. If you're new to the channel, you're very welcome here. Thanks a lot for your comments on some of the videos we've done lately. If you've not checked out some of our other content, please do so. You can see one of our videos right now in the bottom left hand corner of your screen. But until next time, take care everyone. We'll see you soon on my left eye.